let's just go to what could be accomplished if the entire artist community came together to focus on a certain cause or point to make a change. If we all decided today we're focusing on this for one day or 1 year or whatever, and we're going to make a change with this, what do you think could happen?
Oh my gosh, if artists came together and said they were going to focus on an issue, what you would see is what we saw during the civil rights movement, where you had, a Paul Newman, a Marlon Brando, a Sammy Davis, a Harry Belafonte, a Bob Dylan, a Joan Baez. I mean, so many different types of artists uh, literally funding and supporting civil rights and voting rights in this country. The same thing could happen. It could be any issue. It could be racial profiling. It could be climate change. The problem is with this era of artists is the lack of consistency. Or what Bono from U2 said it best. He said the problem is a lot of people don't understand the difference between charity and justice. Charity is when you kind of stick your nose in there for a minute. You're like, I donated. I showed up at the rally. Justice is that you understand this is the rest of your life. This is your value system. Until everyone is free on this planet, I'm going to use my platform as an artist to speak out. Unfortunately, we are not there with a lot of artists. Some understand it, but not enough. That's the problem. I love Kanye West. I think he's one of the best artists of my generation, one of the best artists we've had of this era. But I don't know if he's even the same person who said George Bush doesn't like black people when Katrina happened, because all he talks about now is like, clothes and stuff. And I love fashion too, but like, I want the balance. You know what I mean? Back to that balance we were talking about. Kanye also has been swept up in this whole materialistic world, that hip hop's been sucked into, this kind of matrix. And, the sad part of it is Kanye is actually the kind of artist who could make a difference because his beats are dope because he makes his own beats. The problem with a lot of the so-called conscious rappers, I know you didn't ask this question, but I gotta say it anyway, is most of their beats suck. And please put me on camera saying that. Most of their beats are terrible. I'm not gonna say the names of artists, but it's like, I, what Chuck D and Public Enemy taught us is that if you're gonna speak politically, you better have an incredible production team that's gonna make beats that people are gonna want to dance to. When Public Enemy was at their peak, I was in my early 20s. We danced to Don't Believe the Hype. We danced to Fight the Power. Those were incredible records. You know what I'm saying? Some of this stuff I hear now, people are like, yo, Kev, I get it all the time. I got this record, I'm saying something, it's positive. I listen to it and I'm falling asleep because I'm like, this is not, the first rule of being a musical artist is your music has to be good. You have to catch people musically and then they'll listen to your lyrics. There are very few Bob Marley records, for example, that you cannot dance to because the music production is so incredible. It's the foundation for reggae, you know what I'm saying? And I just had to say that. I just think that yeah, it'd be incredible if artists come together. But the question is, what kind of artists? Because if it's the same few rappers or same few artists coming together, people are not really going to check for it. You can kind of predict. Okay, here's rapper A who's positive. Here's rapper B who's positive. Here's the positive rap group over here. But the artists that really need to be out there, the ones that are doing the most damage right now, vocally, lyrically, who need to think about changing some of their lyrics. And we're not even saying, in the golden era of hip hop, the unofficial rule was no matter what kind of rapper you were, one record on your album had to say something. Give you an example. LL Cool J, who was never considered a conscious rapper, political rapper, he had one of the best songs ever about racial profiling called Illegal Search. That's still an incredible record to this day. NWA's F the Police, that's about racial profiling. It's still one of the best records ever. You know what I mean? One song. We can't even get one song out of people, So the problem is that the rappers with the great beats can't get one song out of them, and the rappers who are conscious saying stuff, their beats stink. What we need is a merging of all of that. They need to come together. You know what I'm saying?
On a social level, what do you hope the legacy of hip hop to be?
What do I hope the legacy of hip hop to be? Wow. I'll put it to you like this. In the last 2 years, I've been to West Africa. I've been to South America, Brazil. I've been to Japan. I've been to Ireland, Canada, Wales, England. And everywhere I go, there's hip hop, like everywhere. You know what I mean? It's mind blowing to me. because I literally grew up in this culture before we even. I remember when it wasn't even, we didn't even have a name for it. We were doing it. You know, people were just rapping. You know what I'm saying? We were just dancing. People were DJing. One of my best friends in high school was a DJ. He used to literally build his coffin that he put his turntables into. We didn't have a name for it. It was just what we did. You know. But what was important was it was our thing. You know, it was something that our parents had Motown, or they had Stax Records, or they had the Beatles, or Rolling Stones, or whatever they had, and we had this new thing. You know, so that's the legacy, is that it created this incredible youth culture that has now influenced generations of young people. I mean, it's amazing to me. I can't tell you how many young people I've met around the world who said they learned English from listening to hip hop. I'm like, wow. In a couple years, I'm producing a biography of Tupac Shakur. I cannot tell you how many black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young people, all different backgrounds, have said to me, you know, people who were just being born when Tupac got killed, I read your Tupac articles in Vibe magazine. That's ridiculous to me, in a good way. You know what I mean? So the legacy of hip hop, the positive, is that it's created this amazing way for so many different types of young people to communicate with each other. You know, I've had interns who are half my age, you know, but they love the golden era of hip hop, and so we're sitting there talking about Chuck D and Public Enemy. We're talking about, you know, Tupac. We're talking about Biggie. I mean, and so it creates these cross-generational conversations, or these cross-cultural conversations that I don't think that doesn't exist in the school system. You know what I mean? It doesn't exist in our education. It's because of hip hop. That's a legacy. Hip hop has penetrated every part of this society. When you hear people say "I'm good," that's hip hop vocabulary. We say that. You know what I mean? "Obey your thirst," Sprite's slogan for years, that comes out of hip hop. When you hear someone use the word "diss," that's a hip hop term. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's a hip hop term. All of it. You know, when I see the way kids play basketball, that's the Fab Five, Chris Webber, and all those Jalen Rose, the Michigan basketball team back in the '90s. They were hip hop heads. That's why they dressed like that. That's why they shaved their heads bald. It was that whole hip hop energy. So that's the positive part of it. The tragic part of it, because we have to talk about it as well, is my fear, and I'm doing everything I can as a hip hop head, as a hip hop historian, as an activist whose work is rooted in the energy of hip hop, to make sure we do not go the way of the minstrel show. What do I mean by that? Some of the worst stereotypes ever of black people and people of color in this country and on the planet, you know, which existed for at least 100 years, if not longer, which was the number one entertainment. You know, the black face, you know, the exaggerated lips, you know, all the stereotypes of black people just being scared and, you know, dangerous and immoral and over-sexualized and violent. That penetrated every aspect of American society before cell phones and internet and all that kind of stuff. Even before radio and TV, to the point that even every Halloween in America in the 21st century, inevitably somewhere you'll see someone wearing blackface because of the legacy of the minstrel show, and think it's not a big deal. My fear is that 50 years from now, 100 years from now, people will think it's okay to call each other NIGGAs like it's no big deal, you know what I mean, and forget the legacy of slavery, Jim Crow, lynchings, everything. People think it's okay to call women and girls BITCHs and HOs. People think it's okay to be homophobic, or be anti-intellectual, or be, you know, hyper-materialistic. All those different things, because the images, because of the industry that we get bombarded with over and over again, represent the dumbing down of all of us. You know what I mean? That would be a tragic, tragic legacy for hip-hop, because it was created out of genius. You know what I mean? But people in the industry have turned that genius into not just ignorance, but enthusiastic ignorance. And, you know, I have hope because I'm an activist, and I wake up every day, okay, how can we change the world today? What can we do? What are the small victories? You know what I'm saying? But I know how popular culture has historically been used to marginalize people, no matter who they are, you know? It could be black people, it could be Latino people, it could be Jewish people, it could be straight people, it could be great gay people, you know what I mean? It could be disabled people. And that's my fear, that this marginalization will become so normalized that people will think it's no big deal. You know what I mean? That is something we need to think about if we're serious about this culture we call hip hop, and if we're serious about our communities. Because when I was a kid, growing up in the 70s and 80s, I would watch those Tarzan movies and not even think twice about the images of black people in Africa. You know, I would watch those sexist images of women, you know, or of Native Americans or whatever group, not even think about it. You know, I would even think about the fact, hey, why aren't there any Latinos on TV? Why aren't there any Asian people on TV? You know what I mean? And think about the catastrophic effect of that, you know, those images. And the same thing is happening all over again with this thing that I love called hip hop. You know what I mean? If the school system is not teaching these kids who they are holistically, and the first thing they're getting is what's on the radio and the videos, or what's on YouTube, on Instagram, on World Star, you know what I'm saying? You know, this is what's going to happen. And the problem is a lot of times people don't see stuff when they're in the middle of it. You know, I'll give you an example. In the late 80s, early 90s, all of us wore high top fades. Like everyone had a high top fade. You know, there's pictures of me in my home where we are right now with me with a high top fade. We didn't think about it. We just did it. You know, years later, I was like, man, what a movement that was. We all had natural hair because remember before that, everyone was wearing a Jerry curl. And all of a sudden, we like later for the Jerry curl, we going with the high top fades. It felt like African crowns on top of our heads, and everyone did it. Even white brothers did it. You know what I mean? Like Serge from Third Base. You know, if you look at early pictures of Kid Rock, Kid Rock was a rapper before he became a rock star. He had a high top. You know what I mean? But we didn't think about it because we were in it. And just like I don't think a lot of people are going to think about this period now until it's over. Like, man, you know, everyone called each other niggas. Everyone called women and girls the worst possible names. Everyone just focused on what they had materially. Everyone's fighting each other. Everyone's got a beef with each other. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of ignorance out there. You know, a lot of confusion. And people don't even know who they are. You know what I'm saying? And they're just kind of just wallowing. You know, it's kind of like Lord of the Flies. That's what hip hop's been reduced to. Lord of the Flies, man. You know? Just these kids, we're all a bunch of kids on an island, not just stuck there, don't even realize it, you know? And I'm like, I'm trying to get off that island. Let's go create a new island.
My last question, where do we go from here?
No. To the vegan spot. Where do we go from here? There's only one place to go, which is up at this point. I mean, you gotta understand, you're talking to someone who, like I said, I was a graffiti writer. I was a dancer, you know. I was a family staff in Revive magazine, you know. So I got to work with Quincy Jones and just this amazing team of young people. All of us, most of us in our 20s, building this magazine into this thing that was incredible. I got the opportunity, very humbly, to produce or curate the very first exhibit on the history of hip hop in America in partnership with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I've been in the middle of all of this stuff, you know, the last 25, 30 years of my life. And I never thought it would get this bad. Never thought. We thought the crack era was terrible. Terrible. I mean, because I lived through it. I know people who got killed. I know people who ended up in jail for years. I know people who just got, you know, cracked out, and we don't know what happened to them, you know. But there's something worse about this time, because it's not the physical drug of crack cocaine that people are taking. It's unfortunately, hip hop has been turned into this kind of drug. You know, the industry's turned it into this drug with these images and these words over and over again. And the only place to go is up at this point, you know. But people have got to have the courage to say, hey, there's something wrong with this. You know what I mean? It's unacceptable just to call each other, you know, the N-word all the time. It's unacceptable to disrespect women like this. It's unacceptable to disrespect our communities like this. It's unacceptable to promote very recklessly drug dealing or drug taking. You know what I mean? And I'm not no prude. I'm not a prude. I've smoked. I've drank in my lifetime. But you know what? I'm also a vegan. I'm also health conscious now, because I realize, you know, one of the arguments I hear is, you know, well, the cold hip hop just reflects what's going on. Nah, if you're serious, you don't just reflect what's going on. You got to correct what's going on. You know what I mean? So what we need now is not just the reflection of all the madness in our communities. We need the correction of it, and that's where we need to go. It needs to be corrected. Otherwise, we're just going to say to the children coming after us, this is okay behavior. You know, this is an okay image for you. You know. I cringe, you know, and it's one of the reasons why I actually stopped playing basketball. Is that I cringe when I play ball with people in my generation, 30s and 40 somethings, and teenagers and 20 somethings. And the number one word as we're playing ball, passing the ball to each other, was Nigga. Yo, pass me the ball in, throw the ball in, shoot the ball in. And I'm just like, does anyone think this is normal? You know, what other people on the planet call themselves the rough equivalent of Nigga? In fact, what word is as bad as that word anywhere? You know what I'm saying? But it's so acceptable. It's like saying that your oppression is acceptable. It's like saying rape is acceptable. Acceptable. It's like saying sexual assault is acceptable. Like murder is acceptable. Because I mean that's what that word does to us. It murders our spirits. It basically makes a mockery of our history when we use it. You know, loosely all over the place. And so you know, where do we go? We need to go forward. The problem is that we're stuck. You know, the metaphor to me is like when I fly on planes, sometimes the pilot will say, okay, we're in a holding pattern, we can't land now. The problem with hip hop, with our culture, our communities, we've been in a holding pattern for a real long time. It's time to land and take the bags off the plane and empty those bags out and move forward. We've been stuck. Can't be stuck. I refuse to be stuck. We should refuse to be stuck. This should not be okay to anybody.
Thank you.